Go Tigers!
Are you ready for the WagerTalk Meet and Greet 2 in Vegas this August? Following the success of our March Madness Meet and Greet at the Superbook Clubhouse, we're heading back to the desert before football season, and we're bringing plenty of friends with us. Who? Plenty of WagerTalk personalities with a handful of Las Vegas friends. What? Super Contest Weekend. Where? Westgate, Las Vegas Superbook. When? August 19th through the 21st, 2022, with the meet and greet that Saturday. Why? Drinks, golf, hoops, football, and fun. The Westgate has graciously extended a large block with discounted rooms for those looking to join us for Super Contest Weekend. To take advantage of the discounted room block, you must call the Westgate at 1-800-457-3307 and use promo code ZSCSP22 when booking. The discounted rate is not available for online booking. Stay on top of the latest updates by going to wt.buzz/mg and hope to see all of you in August.
Happy Friday, everybody. Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one with the prop betting markets. Thank you all for joining us on Prop It Up. Joining me is my fellow prop master, Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com. It's Andrew's birthday. Andrew's partying it up. I saw some of his pictures on social media. Looks like he's having a really good time. So congratulations to him for getting the week off. Must be nice. Matt, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us today. We got a lot coming at you. Matt is going to be doing our prop of the week bet at the end of the show. And it's getting closer to NFL season. So we decided to take a look at some of the player prop futures and who we think could be bullish and bearish that we're going to be on coming into the season. So Matt, you've been on a pretty nice little MLB totals run, and all of your plays can be found at sportsmemo.com. So how's the last week been in MLB? Any takeaways, things that you've noticed over the last week?
By the way, Andy, before we get to that real quick, I just want to say as a lifelong Warriors fan, I will hop off the bandwagon if they get Kevin Durant. I will go find another team because I do not want Kevin Durant on my Warriors. I was really impressed with Chet Holmgren. Maybe I'll become a Thunder fan and go get a Jalen Williams jersey and just have people decide which Jalen Williams is it really for? Is it the guy from Santa Clara or is it the guy from Arkansas? Kevin Durant back to the Warriors. Don't you think that's crazy, Andy?
I would be more surprised that the Warriors would take him back rather than that he would accept to go back. Like the whole reason he left was because he wasn't getting the credit. What is he going to get more credit now that he tucks his tail between his legs? No, I don't see any team that is going to be giving up what they're at. I mean, they're asking for 2 all-star caliber players and first round draft picks. And I mean, you got to find a team with 2 all-star caliber players. Not every team even has that. And I'm not sure why they would, I'm not sure why anybody would trade a bunch of players and a bunch of picks for somebody. I'm looking at you, Minnesota Timberwolves, but most ridiculous trades of our lifetime. I think he stays in Brooklyn. I don't think they find a suitor for him. I don't see how you're going to get back what they're asking at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting. Toronto did get Kawhi Leonard, so they're the kind of team that's kind of lurking right now. But you asked about baseball, so I'll give you a little baseball. The last week, I mean, we're seeing, and this is what with me doing the spreadsheet with Ariel, it really, and I say it every week, and some people are probably tired of it, it just shows how contagious this stuff is. The Dodgers and the Angels are on pretty solid, long over streaks here. And if you look, there's a solid stretch where the Angels struck out, I believe it was like 50 times over 5 games against starting pitchers, and even more if you add in the relievers and things like that. So to me, it's kind of the visual thinking and looking at just seeing how many times these teams are striking out. Now, is it an automatic over? No. Jordan Lyles went against the Angels yesterday. The number was 4.5. He had 4. So it's not an automatic over every time, but certainly with a lot of starting pitchers, even ones you're willing to give a little bit of a leash to in terms of, they're not strikeout pitchers, but the number's low enough and they're going against a strikeout-prone team. Certainly it's something you want to look at. The Dodgers are doing that too a ton. Keegan Thompson's interesting tonight. His number's 3.5, but they've juiced the over to a ridiculous number, and then it's going to be 4.5, and then it becomes a little bit too high. So that just kind of shows you the strikeout prop market. One of the markets I've kind of started looking at a little bit more is the outs market, which I always find interesting because you can get some solid numbers and also some ridiculous juices. The last Shohei Ohtani start, his number was 18.5. And the reason why is because a lot of his starts were 6 innings. But you look against the Marlins have had a lot of times where these starting pitchers have gone 7 innings. It was plus 115 on the over. Took a shot on the over. He went 7 innings and change, I believe, in that one. So the outs market is interesting. You want to pay attention to bullpen usage the night before. You want to pay attention to guys who maybe go more innings on the road, guys who give up a little bit of runs but still manage to stay through it. Jordan Lyles is one of those guys. He gives up some runs, but yet the team still keeps him out there. So outs is certainly a market that is definitely worth looking at. Unfortunately, a lot of books don't have it.
I was actually going to bring up outs. I'm glad you brought this one up. And there was one in particular that hit yesterday, and I want to float this theory by you. So I was talking to Ariel as well, and I of all pitchers to bet on, I bet on Mike Minor to go over his outs, and it hit. And here's my theory with the Reds: their bullpen is so historically bad. It is just, the numbers are just downright off. I think they're at like a 5.65 ERA. Like the next worst team is like 4.7. It's almost like a full run difference. So I was looking at Mike Minor, and the Reds just leave him in there. Even if he's giving up runs, they just leave him in there because he gets through 6 innings. And I wonder if they're just like, our starting pitcher may not be very good, but it's at least better than our bullpen. And I wonder if they leave these starting pitchers out a little bit longer. And I'm going to be looking at Reds starting pitchers to go over their outs, because I went back and looked, and several of these guys, they stay out there regardless of whether or not they're pitching well or not. So I'm going to start looking at some of these teams with bad bullpens and see if there's a correlation. But it worked yesterday. And I'll tell you, I'll go right back to Mike Minor. If they put a number out that's, less, 16 or 17 or less, I'll bet it, because he's getting into the 6th inning and he's getting all the way through it. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this theory.
The one hole I'll poke in that theory, at least for yesterday, is it was a doubleheader, and it was a bullpen game in game 2, so they almost needed him to go deep as long as they can. And yeah, you're right. He's one of these guys that when he gives up some runs, they're not going to just yank him really quickly like if he's a young pitcher. Yeah, I like the fact that he's a veteran, but I think yesterday in particular, it was a bullpen game in game 2. You had a game 1 where they kind of needed some innings out of him. You look at the last series, Ashcraft went 6, and then Lodolo and Green didn't go past 6 innings. So I like where your head's at, and I think Minor's one of those guys that you could certainly look at. But I think the case for yesterday is doubleheader game 1, and then game 2 was a bullpen game.
Gotcha. I've noticed that this is now it's a trend with him now. He just like 6 innings, regardless of what the score is. Just go out there and get your 6 innings, Mike. So interesting stuff to take care of. And I know we could tease college football a little bit. If you want to just tell everyone, probably next week is when you start hitting college football pretty heavy, right?
Yeah, I did my first run through, as we talked about last week. I did my first run through of my win-losses and have some numbers in my head, and then I'm in the process of taking my break and everything, and the break kind of coincides with getting Phil Steele's magazine, which hopefully will be in Barnes & Noble's this weekend, and that's when I'll kind of go through the run-through again, and then after I do the second run-through is when I'll start comparing them to Vegas's totals. We talked about it last week. I like the academies this year. At least compared to my numbers, I think the academies are going to do really well, Navy, Army, Air Force, but we'll start giving out some more college football information next week, which I know is a big week for you, Andy, because once again, another major coming up in golf. I'm excited. It looks like Tiger Woods may be in it. That's always good for gambling. So what are you looking at for the Open Championship overseas?
I will be betting against Tiger Woods. I don't know. I kind of have this thing where I like to bet against golfers that are struggling to walk. And the last time we saw him, he was struggling to walk. And he has in the later part of his career, and this was even before the most recent crash, he really struggled in windy and colder conditions. And they're playing the Scottish Open right now, and the winds are 20, 25 miles an hour. So the conditions are going to be hard. Now, he does love the course that they're playing on, but the fact is, the last time we saw him, he withdrew. He was terrible. He's been a really good bet against the last couple times. You can bet, and then the good thing about him is you can bet against him full tournament. You can bet him against him on the first round. You can bet against him in the second round. So there's ways that you can fade golfers, but the Open Championship is a very bettable tournament just because you have an absolutely stacked field. And actually, it looks like we're going to win again this week. That's 6 winning golf tournaments in a row. So I am seeing golf very, very well. So stacked field, all the big guys are playing in Scotland right now. But yeah, it should be really, really good. And then Formula One and NASCAR could not be going much better, 63% this year, coming off a really nice 3-1 week. They are racing in Austria. In fact, as we speak, they're getting ready for qualifying. So I will have some other picks up. Right now, I do have one play that you guys can grab at WagerTalk.com. But really, really excited about how auto racing's been going. So two races this week, NASCAR and Formula One. I'll just tell you right now, Sergio Perez top 3. I gave that one out on Life in the Fast Lane. He's in a Red Bull car. Super, super fast. They did some upgrades last week on the side pods. He got damage to his car early in the race, had to come in and get it fixed, and he battled all the way back and finished second. So as long as he keeps his car clean, he's going to be good. So there's a free one for you. So, and actually, everything from Matt's can be found on sportsmemo.com. I'm running a special right now on wagertalk.com. Just use the promo code PROFIT399. That's PROFIT 399. It gets you a 90-day all-access pass for just $399. Across all sports, we've been good, so I wanted to do something where you can get a little taste of everything. We're number 1 on WagerTalk since March 1st. We're up like 145 units. So just being able to play all of our sports and get profits coming in from all over the place during the summer is really important. So I encourage you to go get that Profit 399 at wagertalk.com. All right, Matt, we teased that we're going to talk about some NFL players. So we're going to do, we're just calling it the bullish and the bearish markets. So we looked over some players, and let's talk about some players that we're looking at possibly fading and players that we're possibly supporting. I know on the domestic books, DraftKings, they already have a ton of player prop futures, which was really exciting. And I think there's some really, really good ones. So I'll let you go first. When you started looking over some of these, what were some players and teams that you initially thought of as being bullish or bearish on?
Well, since I'm such a positive person, I focus mostly on the bullish stuff here. You know me, Andy. I'm a ray of sunshine. So I looked at a couple of overs so far, at least. I mean, obviously, it's always easier, and we've talked about it on the show. It's easier to look at the overs, but it's probably smarter to look at the unders because the books know we love the over. So 2 guys that I'll focus on here, and then we'll get some from you. One, I think Allen Robinson is a really good target, especially in fantasy football. Look, you look at the numbers that Robert Woods put up last year, and then you kind of combine them with Odell Beckham because Odell Beckham kind of replaced Robert Woods, and you throw, sprinkle Van Jefferson in there, and there were touchdowns to go around for everybody other than Cooper Kupp. And I think Allen Robinson, people are going to forget about him a little bit because he was stuck in Chicago. He's got a legit quarterback for now, and in Los Angeles, he's got Sean McVay, who's going to scheme him up a little bit. And I thought it was interesting on DraftKings, his over for touchdowns was 7.5 at plus money. So I thought that was worth money. This is always, if I can get something I like and at plus money, I think I'm going to do that. So I took a little bit on Allen Robinson over 7.5 touchdowns. It's a lot, but once again, if you look at Robert Woods and you combine Odell Beckham, and you take that because they were both the Y or the Z wide receiver on that team, you're going to get around the same production from Allen Robinson. Now, Robinson could actually stink. He might actually be, past his football prime and everything, but I'm going to take a chance in that offense that he's going to get rejuvenated a little bit. So I really like Allen Robinson. How about, what do you think about Allen Robinson and maybe somebody you're bullish on?
I think Allen Robinson, listen, he's only 28. So I think he's, in his prime, and he's one of these guys that I'm so glad to see him in this offense because, I mean, look at the teams and the quarterbacks that he played for. He seriously might be one of the most talented receivers with the lack of results, through not really anything, that he did wrong. But I love the Allen Robinson renaissance. He is so freaking good and has been struggling with bad quarterbacks that I think it's just going to really open his eyes. And I think he's going to love it. I don't think he's going to stink. I think he's going to be really productive. I think that was such a brilliant pickup. I hoped my Colts were going to go get him to add something to our wide receiving core. So I thought it was a great pickup. I love any prop going over because, like you said, he's walking into a great situation, and there's going to be a lot of targets available to him. And this is a high flying offense that is not scared to throw the ball. And I think the other good thing that you have for that is I'm not a big believer in the Rams running game right now. I'm not sure who's going to be the bell cow if they are going to do a bell cow, but it's pretty obvious that they want to run the offense through Stafford and through the air. So I think that's a good one. What's another guy that you were looking at?
Another guy that I'm positive about, and this is kind of, we're going to watch this for more for the season. There's not going to be any props here, but John Bates in Washington is going to be the starting tight end until Logan Thomas comes back. Now, look, Logan Thomas at some point is going to come back. He's coming off the ACL injury, and this could all be for nothing if he comes back week 1. But I have a feeling early on, even if he does come back, they're going to ease him into things. And look, I know, and having seen Carson Wentz, he loves his tight ends, and I think the Commanders really like what they've seen from John Bates last year. We got, a couple of times on this show, we gave out John Bates because Taylor Heineke loved John Bates. So I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be very busy early on, especially if Logan Thomas isn't available. And if Logan Thomas is available, there's some of the books that kind of give you those second tight ends, those fourth wide receivers and things like that. I could think there could be some sneaky value on a guy like John Bates because we know Carson Wentz loves the tight end, and John Bates showed a lot last year for the Commanders.
Good stuff. I'll bring up another tight end that I think is going to have a really good year. I love Dalton Schultz over 5.5 touchdown catches. He had 8 last year. Dak loved throwing to him when they got in close. Obviously, no Amari Cooper. I do think Zeke is going to be he is much more healthy. It turns out he had a torn ligament in his knee. So maybe that equals some more touchdowns around the goal line for Zeke. But Dalton Schultz, he was an incredible fantasy football player for what you paid. I think you could have easily picked him up off waiver wire, or at least drafted him late. So, I mean, 8 touchdowns is a lot for a tight end, but when Dak loves throwing to a guy and he fixates on him, and now that Amari Cooper is not there, I think Schultz is going to be an incredible red zone target. I think 5.5 touchdown catches is going to be way too low. So as long as he stays healthy, I would expect him to fly over that total. And then another one I'll throw you and get your thoughts on. I know the Dolphins went and got Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle was such a receptions machine last year, and I don't really see that changing a whole lot. They have his receptions total at 85.5. He had 104 last year. He had 140 targets. I just don't see his numbers going down that much. Maybe Tyreek Hill eats into it a little bit, but this is a dink and dunk offense, a dink and dunk quarterback. It plays really good into Waddle. His hands were great last year. He's obviously got the respect of the quarterback and the offense. So I think that number is way too low, and I cannot wait to play him starting off the year over his receptions total. That was one of my favorite, most profitable bets. So, Matt, what do you think about Dalton Schultz and Jalen Waddle there?
My one worry for Schultz is the contract stuff. I'm assuming, we've seen Dallas with that whole contract stuff with like DeMarco Murray when they ran him into the ground and they just, gave him 700 carries. Maybe they overfeed him because they know next year they're not going to bring him back. That's the one thing, Andy, is that, and who knows, maybe they sign him because I think I saw it's 10 days until the contract has to get done or, whatever happens there. But yeah, you're right. When he was available, the backup situation's not as good as it used to be. So yeah, I like Dalton Schultz. And then, it's funny. I feel like this year, Andy, I'm going to be doing a lot of Waddle receptions, Tyreek Hill longest receiving reception. Like, I feel like this is going to be one of those things where Jalen Waddle gets like 8 for 80 every week, and then Tyreek Hill gets like 4 for like 97. Because I think that they're just going to Tyreek Hill's never been that guy who's going to get the 6 or 7 yard reception. He's going to be that guy who's going to get 20, 30 yard chunks. And since the Dolphins are begging us to not remember the one throw he threw to Tyreek Hill and look at some of the other throws, I think they're going to be like, look, we're going to throw deep to the guy. And so, yeah, I don't know what you think about that, but like longest reception for Tyreek Hill this year and receptions over for Jalen Waddle are probably going to be the way to go there.
Yeah, Tyreek has always been a good one for the longest one. Even if, when he catches those, 10, 12 yards, if he catches it and he's, in motion and he's running, there's nobody faster. So he can easily break those. I think that's a really good way to play it. And it makes all the sense in the world. You're totally right that Waddle can be the guy that moves the chains and gets the 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, and then they try and hit Tyreek with the long ball, I guess the longish ball in Miami. So shout out to the person that released that on social media. I wonder if they had a Stern talking to. It's like,
They don't have a job anymore.
Of all the things you're going to release, that was it. Come on. So one more that I want to go over you, and I'm going to talk about this on Wager Talk today. I think this might be my favorite one. AJ Dillon over 5.5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he's going to be their main running back on the ground. I think Aaron Jones moves a lot more into the receiving role. He had 5 rushing touchdowns last year in the regular season, but they were all in the last 8 games of the year when he really started to get integrated in the offense and he solidified his place. No, I mean, we talk about it. No Devontae Adams, no Valdez-Scantling. It's going to be much more of a rushing team. He did a good job when he got on the goal line. He had a touchdown in the playoff game. So AJ Dillon, I think this number's low. If you're going to play it, I would lock it in now because I think this one's going to start getting juicy. I think people are going to get on this one as I find this total pretty low over 17 games. Any thoughts on AJ Dillon?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's the guy they go to in the goal line, it looks like. And if he ever develops a pass catching ability, which I don't know if he's ever going to have necessarily, because that's kind of the Aaron Jones role, then I think he can, vulture one of those touchdowns as well. So yeah, I like it. It's good look. Certainly at 5.5. I'll add one more. And I don't know necessarily I'm bearish on this guy, but I don't know where I want to attack it. And it's Miles Sanders for my Eagles. I really feel like this year, the first couple of games of the season last year, the Eagles decided to go pass heavy with Jalen Hurts, and it was a mistake. And they had the Dallas game where they ran it like only 3 or 4 times. I don't think we're going back to that, but you don't get A.J. Brown and just not throw the ball a little bit more than you did last year. And I think we've talked about it, this is a huge year for Jalen Hurts. If he performs well, he can lock in a future contract and be safe and sound in Philadelphia. And if he performs badly, then Philadelphia, who has 2 first-round picks next year, could be looking to get a new quarterback. So I feel like they're going to go and they're going to ride Jalen Hurts as much as they can, good or bad. And I think that's going to hurt Miles Sanders. Remember, Miles Sanders is not really a pass-catching back. That's what Boston Scott is. That's what some of the other guys are on this team. So I feel like Miles Sanders didn't get a touchdown last year. I don't think he's going to get shut out again, but I think the under for Miles Sanders, either rushing yards or touchdowns, might be the way to go. I think the Eagles are going to pass the ball a little bit more than they did last year in the second half. And I think Miles Sanders is the guy, once again, who also does not have a contract for next year. I think Miles Sanders is the guy who's going to get hurt a little bit by that in the Eagles offense. What do you think?
I think it was a brilliant signing. Did anyone know AJ Brown was that available? I mean, I'm in Indianapolis. I'm trying to pay as much attention to the Titans as I can, and I didn't know that he was that available. So I thought you guys got a steal for him, and I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a big year. I think his passing numbers were a little bit skewed. He did have accuracy problems, but I also thought his wide receiving core let him down quite a bit. I mean, there was one game where they literally dropped the ball in that zone for the game-winning touchdown.
Taylor Rager.
So,
excuse me. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It happens to all of us. I thought that signing was huge, and I think it's going to make a big difference for Hurts. So, it's hard to be accurate when your accuracy numbers are affected by that many drops and by that many guys that can't get open. AJ Brown is just going to do wonders for it for that offense. So I like where you're at with Miles Sanders. You might be able to play him rushing and receiving under as well. If you think he's going to go under, his receiving, that could take off. They could really hurt that duo category of the rushing and receiving. So I like the direction you're going with that one. I got a couple guys that I am bearish on. I think the obvious one is Aaron Rodgers. I looked at his touchdowns. I think that might be the best way if you're going to play an Aaron Rodgers under. It's 31.5 passing touchdowns. He had 37 last year, and that was with Devontae Adams and Valdez-Scantling. And as always, when you play unders, any type of injury, you're pretty much guaranteed to hit it. So if Rodgers has some kind of injury and can't play every single game, I think he goes under. And if they really are this much of a running team, those touchdown numbers are going to really, really be affected. I mean, Matt, I don't even know who's the red zone target for him now. Is it
Robert
really
Tunyon's not
Lazard?
even available. I think Robert Tunyon's not even available. Like the first couple weeks, I think he's getting over injury. So I have no idea who their number one tight end is, but I assume it might be him. It's not Sammy Watkins. You'll get that one good game from Sammy Watkins and then be chasing it the rest of the year.
Yeah, so I think when they get in close, it's the A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones show. And then the other one that I have to bring up is DJ Moore, under 85.5 receptions. I mean, what is this quarterback situation that he has? So the quarterback situation is terrible. I don't know if they even know what they're doing with it. And he played every single game last year and had 93. So I think it's hard to play every single game 2 years in a row. I mean, his talent, he reminds me a lot of Allen Robinson, very talented, but just in a really bad situation. Any type of injury, he's going to come under. And even if he doesn't come under, I think the quarterbacks are so bad, and they're just going to be so Christian McCaffrey heavy that I wonder if his touches get a little bit limited. So Rodgers and Moore were two guys that kind of jumped out. Any thoughts on DJ Moore and thoughts on that quarterback situation there?
I mean, somebody's going to benefit, and considering Robbie Anderson already said on Instagram he was not excited for Baker Mayfield. I mean, it might be more, but you're right. I don't know what to make of that offense. I feel like Matt Rule was a guy who wanted to run the ball more. The problem is when Christian McCaffrey inevitably get hurt, does that mean that they are going to go more to a passing offense? And they don't have a tight end really that they can rely on. I think Ian Thomas is still there at tight end, so somebody has to catch the ball there, but I mean, that doesn't mean that there can't be, 4 or 5 guys that catch the ball as opposed to one number one wide receiver. And then the worry for Aaron Rodgers is he's dating a witch or a shaman or whatever she is. So there's a possibility that mystical powers come involved. And B, the one thing about taking unders with Aaron Rodgers is it's scary. I mean, he's still a guy, and in that division, remember, the Lions secondary is not very good. The Vikings secondary isn't very good. I don't believe the Bears secondary is very good.
The Lions secondary isn't very good? Hot take.
Wait, I know. Jeffrey Okudah in year 3, who knows? But, I mean, there is some easy opponents coming up for them, and they get them each 2 times. It's not a bad look. That's just the one thing that scares me about Aaron Rodgers is somehow he'll come out with 30 touchdowns or more because he's just that good. He makes guys that are bad look pretty good.
Yeah. The Christian McCaffrey under has cashed a couple years in a row just with his injuries, like you said. I mean, the guys, and he was so durable, and then all of a sudden he gets that one injury, and now it's piled up. So I do like taking unders on some of those bigger name guys with those huge totals. I mean, Zeke was an easy cash last year under his rushing and receiving once he got that injury. So, all right, guys. Once again, everything of Matt's can be found at sportsmemo.com. We're going to get to our best bet here in a second. Matt has been doing really well in Major League Baseball with K props and MLB totals as well. Keep an eye out for when he starts releasing college football, which should be starting next week. Everything's at sportsmemo.com. Everything of mine can be found on WagerTalk.com. Got a promo code PROFIT399 for a 90-day pass. Number 1 on WagerTalk since March 1st, up 145 units. That gets you all sports, all 5% plays, everything. So grab that, WagerTalk.com. All right, let's get to the prop it up bet of the week. And you and I are on the same page. Matt, I had one guy listed that I didn't go over as a guy I'd like to support, and sure enough, he pops up on your bet of the week. So let's have it. A guy that kind of has been a little bit under the radar, and he's not under the radar this year. We got high expectations for him.
Yeah. First of all, I don't like this guy. I don't think he's a clutch quarterback, I think he's the emblem of the NFL nowadays. He's a stat compiler. He's a guy that's going to put up very good numbers. He throws the ball a lot, and there's talk that he's going to even throw the ball a little bit more this year. This is where reading the headlines and the press clippings comes into play here. And I'm going to hitch my wagon to Kirk Cousins. I am taking for this week's best bet over 31.5 passing touchdowns for Kirk Cousins. And, this is, as I said, this is where you read the press clippings, and there's a lot of talk even out of OTAs and minicamp that they're like, how how much we passed last year? Like, even more this year is what we're looking at here. And you look the last 2 years, Kirk Cousins threw for 33 touchdowns and 35 touchdowns. And last year he did in 16 games, and in 2020 he did in 16 games. Remember, there is the 17th game, and if you think they're going to be in the playoff hunt, which some people do, I'm not as optimistic on Minnesota, then he's going to play all 17 games. This basically means he has to throw 2 touchdowns in the majority of his schedule. And once again, we just talked about it. Detroit's secondary is not good. Games against Green Bay are going to turn into a shootout. Games against Chicago might turn into a little bit of a shootout if their offense figures it out. So I'm going with the over on Kirk Cousins passing touchdowns. It's a bit of a head-scratching number, Andy, that we read a lot of headlines saying they're passing it more, and he's gone over this one the last 2 years.
I couldn't agree more. I actually had some notes about over 4,200 yards. He's gone over that number in 3 out of 4 years, and that's with kind of a defensive-minded head coach. They weren't really opening up the offense. So I'm with you. I'm with you on the Kirk Cousins hype, and I love that 31.5 passing touchdowns. I would do that one over the yards. That's it's a really good receiving core. Obviously, Jefferson, we expect him to get even better. Thielen could be a really nice sleeper in fantasy draft. So I love that one. Kirk Cousins is a perfect guy to be targeting in fantasy drafts. I'm not sure where he's going, where he's being drafted, but if they really are going to open up that offense, that's a guy who could be a top 6 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, even if he plays all the games. So nice work, Matt. That's our prop of the week. Kirk Cousins over 31.5 passing touchdowns. And Matt, I love it. So sneaky that we have to wait months to see if this is a winner. That is so smart so smart on your end, because if it loses, you don't have to bring it up. But if it wins, you can be like, remember in July when I gave that out, counted as a win.
Hey, listen, you guys had a win streak. I didn't want to lose it, so we're going to try and keep this show record good. I mean, obviously I think it's going to win, and this is where, Andy, and we can close here, like this is where, training camp's coming up. You got to make sure to read the clippings, because coaches will tell you some little things, and if you can recognize this stuff before the books do, then you could certainly find better numbers.
Great stuff. Yeah, if you're going to lock some of these in, grab them now before news comes out of training camp and the numbers go up. So great job. That's Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Shout out to Andrew McGinnis, who is off this week. All of his picks can be found on WagerTalk.com. I know he's been having a stellar CFL season. So if you're interested in some Canadian football, go check that out. He's on a nice streak there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hope your weekend is a profitable one, and college football is right around the corner. NFL is right around the corner. And then before you know it, we got NBA, NHL starting up again. So it's almost like a little bit of lull, but enjoy it while you can, because it gets really, really heavy here in a little bit. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week on another edition of Prop It Up.
Let's go, Tigers!
Are you ready for the WagerTalk Meet and Greet 2 in Vegas this August? Following the success of our March Madness Meet and Greet at the Superbook Clubhouse, we're heading back to the desert before football season, and we're bringing plenty of friends with us. Who? Plenty of WagerTalk personalities with a handful of Las Vegas friends. What? Super Contest Weekend. Where? Westgate, Las Vegas Superbook. When? August 19th through the 21st, 2022, with the Meet and Greet that Saturday. Why? Drinks, golf, hoops, football, and fun. The Westgate has graciously extended a large block with discounted rooms for those looking to join us for Super Contest Weekend. To take advantage of the discounted room block, you must call the Westgate at 1-800-457-3307 and use promo code ZSCSP22 when booking. The discounted rate is not available for online booking. Stay on top of the latest updates by going to wt.buzz/mg, and hope to see all of you in August.